We're streaming. Okay, it's Saturday. Saturday is the day of Art of Rock. There's so many things that I need to have open that I don't have open right now. Welcome, first and foremost. I acknowledge the Tongva people as the traditional landowners of Los Angeles, California. I say that every week, but it's really important. These are big words and thoughts towards the beginnings of reconciliation and forgiveness and moving forward. And if they could survive, so can you. Join us every Saturday here on Angelspit's Twitch. Hey, please like Angelspit's Twitch if you want, or on Angelspit's YouTube. This is made possible by Angelspit's Patreon, and thank you for being a part of this. You can join for free, or you can pay for as little as $3 a month. That's up to you. Angelspit's new album is called The Red End, and I'm very fucking happy with it. There's a playlist that I want you to be a part of, and I want you to pimp, and I want you to listen to there. There's a whole bunch of bands there that you need to learn about. It is so exciting. Mark, you owe me a track, by the way. I'm proudly wearing my Vulture Culture Scum t-shirt. Vulture Culture is doing the most dope fucking deep dives into synthesizers. I just said dope. Every Wednesday night, that's Vulture Culture's channel. Get the damn t-shirt, because I and many of us want him to do this full time. And if Rob turns up, we're talking about the K2000. Angelspit's Discord is apparently here. I don't know how Discord works. I got to tell you, I just don't give a shit. After we do this, we're going to raid on over to MTV TV because it's fucking amazing. Razi, thank you for co-hosting. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.
Drop the fucking
that kind of morning.
It really is. And these are some of the amazing humans, Diana, welcome, who are joining us. Mark, you should give me your SoundCloud or your Bandcamp or something so people could listen to you, because I've got Phoenix, I've got Ivan, I've got everyone. So there's also still an ongoing GoFundMe for Drake's family, who we tragically lost only recently. So go listen to Drake's music. Go help out with that. I'm getting there. If you have a problem with social media, I sure do. There's a 12-step recovery program. Super Tablespoon, welcome. It's there. Get it. If you want to be a part of something that doesn't use an algorithm, darkmusic.net is a fantastic place for you to jump in on and hang out with other darkly attired people. Hey, and you know, if you're a little worried about where America is going right now, indivisible.org. Indivisible.org. Indivisible is a legal, peaceful, and constitutional group that are helping and motivating Americans to take control of their democracy, do something positive, peaceful, legal, and constitutional. It could be, there are rallies, and these are all legal rallies that you could join. There could be a thing where you call a senator. It's legal, constitutional, and it's encouraged. You have to think of it like there's a giant asteroid heading towards America, and it's on the way, but all you have to do is nudge it a little tiny bit. If everybody's nudging it a bit, it's gonna miss. Indivisible.org. Go join them. And I can't stress it enough. It is legal, it is peaceful, it is constitutional, and it is going to help you do something positive for the United States, because there's a lot of people freaking out. And if you feel like it's helpless, you're hopeless, and you can't do anything, join our group or the ACLU. Go get it, because this democracy is worth very peacefully, legally, and constitutionally fighting for. Did you notice how I said legally, constitutionally, and peacefully there? Morning. Swords. Rob, if you jump on today, we're going to talk about the K2000. But right now, Rezi, you hit me with a really interesting question, and let's do this.
Sure. I think it was along the lines of something I watched a little earlier, and I stopped agreeing with the person that was delivering the message. But the way he posed it was like, what do you call yourself in the process of making stuff? His dichotomy was composer versus producer, and the way that people are using producer lately was confusing things, possibly for people who are traditional producers, who are non-musician, business side of the technical creative process. And what it made me think of is like how you define yourself. Oh, I'm just a keyboardist. I write keyboard songs. I'm just the producer. I don't get involved in playing the instruments and in writing the songs. I come in and I guide the thing for the A&R and label so that it works to their benefit. Like there's all these roles. I don't think any of us are doing that. But if you think of some of your friends who are, I'm an artist, I'm a composer who produces, is that limiting? Does it fit the whole scope of what you do? Does it make you think differently about what you do? Is there any philosophical strength in defining yourself, and does it guide how you grow and learn? Does it get in the way? Things like that. It made me start thinking about it anyway this morning.
I appreciate this. Brett, I want to hear your thoughts.
So once upon a time, I was actually in TV, and yeah, that was my first career. And I actually worked for South Carolina Educational Television. Um, there we had producers, we had directors, we had cameramen, but we were a small station, and we had to we had to share the roles. So you would literally take on the role of producer, and that meant that you're actually doing the business inside of this, and you're the guy who's managing all the people who are collecting the creative stuff. So where it applies to music, I think that term, in my opinion, should still belong. But it should encompass that business side. If you're saying you're a producer, then to me you're saying, okay, well, you have a means to bring the product to the people, to the audience. Now, if you are also the artist, the musician, the whatever, great. But those are additional hats you must wear. In my own world, I would say I'm probably more musician, composer, artist. I'm not really great at producing.
This is interesting. Thank you. Rezi, what are your thoughts?
I think that self-produced artist is different from producer. And I also think that there's some elitism and classism going on when we talk about this stuff. That's like, I want to tread lightly, because this is what I stopped being into what this other person was saying when I was watching them. There is another meaning of the word producer, and it is somebody who makes beats and backing tracks and doesn't do the rapping. And that's one of the most modern and successful and exciting creative parts of the music industry that exists still to this day, and has been for so long, that it would be silly not to acknowledge that sense of the word producer. But we are sort of trying to focus on what it does when you're in the studio. And for me, like, Brett, as you were talking, what I was thinking of is, it's one of those, what the word I'm looking for, like nuisance, an attractive nuisance, like that I can also be the producer, and now I can switch for, entirely out of the music writing thing and think about things from a production standpoint. And so I'm the tracking engineer, I'm the composer, I'm the producer deciding on if this makes the cut or not, if it's in line with what I think people want to hear or what my rules are for the thing. And there's a lot of moving around and getting up in your head about the stuff rather than getting the work done, for me, that I find that this like plays right into. So I'm thinking possibly some strength in redefining and really landing harder on I'm a composer who self-produces, and leave some of that being a producer stuff out of it. Like, I'll wrap this up because I can come back 4 different times and have the same amount of stuff to say about individual producers. Last album, I was thinking Roy Thomas Baker for an entire track and doing the vocals in the way that they would do. I was thinking Steve Lillywhite for an entire track and doing the entire thing the way that they would do. And that was another whole month of being the producer. So, I don't know. Useful, gets in the way, fun. This may be your whole reason for doing music, is to get into those paths and learn and grow. So,
And thank you. And by the way, if you can put your hand up if you want to speak, just because I can't see the way my screen's laid out, I can't see everybody right now. So just put your hand up so I can see you. Phoenix, I'd love to hear your thoughts, and welcome back.
No problem. Just was tired. Uh, but it happens. So I produce all my own stuff. I use SoundCloud to help me produce because they give me like 3 to 4 different types and styles to produce music with. And it's an interesting feature because I don't want to pay like hundreds of dollars to someone to produce it for me. So in a way, I produce it myself, but I use SoundCloud to help me. And since I started doing that, my music's been sounding a lot better because I have a problem where I'll make a great song, I'll think it's really great, and then all of a sudden, like other friends of mine will be like, "Oh, well, that sounds too loud here, or that sounds too quiet here," and it's a helpful tool, I believe. But yeah, like 20 years later, 13 albums later. So yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you. This is really fascinating because, Mark, did you want to say something about this?
Uh, no, I don't really have any strong thoughts about this.
Okay. This is very fascinating because I hate people who describe themselves as top-down composers. Like, fuck. And everyone in LA is a top-down composer. And it's like, it's very interesting that when somebody says, "What do you do?" I go, "I make coffee." I do everything that I can to say I'm not composition and not composing because it's going to launch into a whole bunch of other conversations. But what is interesting is about what I think about myself. And it's such an interesting idea is that, oh shit, there's a great big piece of glass I missed. I dropped something before. Fuck. Yeah, okay, here I am. Actually, I'm going to throw this to you, Ivan, and I'm going to clean my floor because I don't want that shit getting
do the
in
glass
Frank's
cleaning.
feet.
It's important. When there's cats involved and the maternal instincts kick in, you got to go clean up the glass. Ivan.
Actually, Ivan, before you start, can someone please define top-down producer for me? I've never heard that term.
I just missed that because my air conditioner's broken. I had to open the windows so I don't. Yeah, I would assume. No, you know what? I'm not going to say who's got an answer for that. Who proposed was that Carl's term?
It was Carl.
So industry term, it's probably referring to somebody who is the project producer who comes into the studio and is not the artist and is not the label and works between them and is not the mix engineer and is not the tracking engineer, is not the remix artist, is not the possibly the arranger, but they are strictly the person responsible for how the music comes out. That would be my guess. I don't know if I've heard that exact term used, but Carl will fill us back in if that's not quite accurate. It is a role traditionally. People like George
Top-down
Martin.
composer. Top-down
composer. Oh,
Oh.
okay. Well, then I have no idea. Never mind. Skip it. When Carl pops back up, he'll
I have
tell
a
us more
chat
about it.
definition.
Brett, go ahead. Say again.
I have a chat GPT definition. It's a music creator who begins with a big picture of a piece and then works downward into details.
Well, okay, sure. Let's see if Carl meant that. But first, Ivan, what's your new name on the screen? Because I didn't let you in this morning because I didn't know who you were. And you're muted, I think. Well, we're not hearing your audio anyhow. Whether you're muted or not is a different discussion. But keep working on that. Carl, how's your glass situation?
Wow, today is off to a good start.
Yeah.
Is there something astrological that just says fucking broken glass mayhem? I don't know.
No, I think it's the consolidation of media by the federal government.
Probably.
That's pretty much what's going on here.
About that. Yes, I was suggesting that, it's really interesting that if I think about, maybe what I need to think about is I am now going to be in composer mode and I'm going to write this shit and I'm not going to worry about the production of it. And when I have moved from, and I'm okay with the composition, I'm going to move on to producer / engineer mode.
Nest.
Good check, Ivan.
Fast. What did I miss?
Ivan was just doing a mic check. Please continue.
Oh, hey, Mike, Ivan.
It's finally working again. I rebooted, and it apparently.
Well, you're not smashing glass all over your house, so you're doing all right.
So,
So yeah, this is a really interesting thing that I think that it's a very important thing to move through. As far as top-down composers go, I have a problem with this. You're fucking kidding me. I'm still here. You fucker. I swept this goddamn floor. So I was doing the washing this morning and I broke a glass and it went the fuck everywhere. And I swept like a motherfucker and I cleaned Frank's bowls and everything. Ah, god damn it. Anyway, look. So you've got top-down composers and they basically just write lyrics and come up with ideas for stuff. And my issue with a top-down composer, which is why I've always gone, I need to take more control of what's going on for me, is that you're handing control and sound and everything over to someone else. And your job as an artist is to have, it's your sound. And increasingly, the synthesizers and drum machine choices that you make are critical to the part of that sound. But going back to the original thing, it's a really nice thing that you might go, well, today I'm going to be a horror movie, a special effects sound Foley artist. That's what I'm doing today. And just enjoy that. So I really appreciate that thought, Rosie. Thank you. Ivan, your hand is up and I'm prattling.
okay, you can hear me now, which helps. So, I do come at this from the, my quality time in the video game industry. And producer there meant something, wildly different than the music industry, than our world. I don't know how much experience everybody's got with overloaded terms.
I'm gonna guess a lot, but depends on what the term and what industry
Like,
segment.
the misuse of the word producer in our world is turned it into a wildly overloaded term. It means too many things. And as soon as you start doing that, you lose precision in what you're talking about. And as soon as you lose precision in what you're talking about, people stop knowing what you're talking about.
That is an issue. But since we're working primarily as individuals and not worrying about jargon to communicate things with precision, that's one advantage. And secondarily, I want to focus on what it does to your thinking more than, like the criticism of the word and how it's been diluted and changed. Like when you think of yourself as wearing the producer hat, what does that hat look like?
I'm a bottom-up composer.
That sounds sexy.
I play with sounds until everything fits together. The
I mean, that's not even worried about being a producer in that case. It's just the composition, being a composer. You're not
what producer means.
right.
Like it apparently means people that stick loops of samples together and call it a song, while it also means apparently the mix engineer, while apparently also meaning the composer, while apparently also meaning not quite the artist. It's so
Yeah, I mean those are fair assessments of how the words have changed. But as much of I hate to allow prescriptive is in word definitions, these are the way the words mean. And does that affect you in your writing, or are you still free to think of yourself as doing what you're doing? And does it still feel inspirational and carry the work
the
through?
nice thing about being a bottom-up composer is, you play with it until it works right.
Good.
And you don't spend a lot of time worrying about defining yourself or being defined in a way that limits what you can play with.
I like that. I also see a lot of hands up, but maybe there's some more things to talk about. Carl, do you want to jump back in?
Thank you, and thank you so much for covering my base there, Rezi and Ivan. I really appreciated your thoughts. Austin, talk to me, baby.
Yeah, I'm going to be really brief here. Is my audio coming through? Everything coming through okay? Or alrighty. Yeah, I think it relies on your independence as a musician, and as you grow, your dependence on other people. And if you grow as an independent artist without other people, then you can pick any title you want. But as you become more dependent on a team of people or whatever, those people encompass those titles until you can regain them yourselves, and that's kind of how I feel about that.
Yes, thank you very much. And welcome to the Art of Chaos. Phoenix, talk to
Thank
me,
you guys.
babe. No, well, I really appreciate what you said, so thank you.
So
I'm
yeah,
just talking about the glass in my house. Sorry, Phoenix, the floor is yours.
so yeah, I guess I would be a bottom-up producer as well because I do everything. I purchase the royalty-free tracks, and then I compose them on the computer, and I take anywhere from a couple days to even an hour to make a song, you know. But I'm doing all the work, and I'm not reaching out to anyone else. The only person I'm reaching out to is my animator because I'm working on an animation project for one of my songs, and they're really good at animating. So, you know, but I mean, everything else I'm just doing myself. So, yeah, thank you for that, Ivan. Bottom up producer. Uh, that's what I would be, or bottom up musician. So,
Thank you. Thank you very much. Brett, talk to me about your life.
All right, I'm going to agree with Ivan. But anyway, as funny as that is, what I, as far as wearing different hats and whether or not this influences my whatever, I you know that's one of those things that kind of really happens kind of automatically. I mean, it's when I say I've worn this hat, my engineering hat, my musician hat, my composer or bottom up producer hat. Um, what I'm really trying to do is saying that I'm in a mode of thinking. I'm not coming into the studio to put on that hat. That's already there for me. Um, and sometimes, I've got to make the executive decision to put, a song down for a minute and give my ears a break from it so that I can come back to it critically, since I'm the only perspective it gets before it gets released to the mass public. So kinda, maybe. But I think it's more terms used to describe the way I was thinking in past tense.
Okay, thank you. That's great. Resi, food for thought, babe.
So
What do
much
you
to
got?
think about. It just keeps getting like more and more spiraling out in my head anyway. The Ivan, no, Brett actually was more talking about these. Well, both of you were talking about sort of these union prescribed kind of limitations on what you can do, and you're going to have to file a grievance with the shop steward if somebody touches one of your faders, rather than everybody's just like leaning in and doing stuff. Technology moved on. We don't have to have the same kind of specialization and expertise and training and pedagogy with the old guild system of these things. Although I think talking to our peers is that guild, and watching videos about how people do that stuff rather than going to intern at a studio. Which, I mean, raise your hand if you actually did that in college and came up through the studio system where you had to cut tape and empty trash cans and make tea, but you absorbed what people were doing in their roles. And I think that's super helpful and informative. And I'm also trying to probe this, like, the idea of full stack coming from the web development workflow, where you know how to do all the stuff. There's a full stack music producer that we're kind of talking about, where you have the ideas, you're the artist, you're the person in the TikToks, you're the person that maybe sang on it and mixed and released it and worked with the distributors. Like, it's all you. Independent artist is also kind of synonymous with that, and it's a really busy and invigorating place to be. But of course, the specialization led to a lot of innovation that we may or may not be missing out on. And the question that comes to mind, is that replaced, if anybody's got an idea about that, by the amateur attitude of just jumping into it and fucking around? Like, is that super as valuable as, Sir George Martin being excellent at writing string arrangements and charts, which I'm assuming you went to university for and studied. Anyway, it's a thought, like specialization and expertise through apprenticeship versus the freedom to really break rules and do stuff that Brian Eno wouldn't even have dreamed of, although he probably did.
Thank you. I just realized my mic was on the entire time, then I apologize. Brett, you talk first, and then I'm going to shoot my mouth off.
So just kind of responding to Rezi, that's the very thing that that intrigued me about industrial is the breaking of rules. You know, you can literally take every single genre or none at all, smash them together and see what comes out. And time signatures or no time signatures. In fact, we've got entire genres built on that exploration of music. That's kind of where things like, you get your down tempo, EBM, you get or EDM, I should say. You get ambient, and then Coil puts out an album that's one freaking noise for about 4 hours. So, I think our genre is part of what makes it unique is that breaking the rules are kind of required.
Okay, thank you. There is a lot going on here. Okay, so firstly, it's a really great reminder that you are allowed to play composer, sound designer, or dude fucking up with shit. It's because you're wearing that hat. It's okay. And then you're going to go into producer engineer mode that cleans everything up and makes it work. I think it's very important to remember that. As far as how I describe myself, I don't know. I was also thinking how people who start in studios as sweeping floors and making coffee, if you've had a really rough session and it's total shit and some dude comes into your hand and puts a fucking coffee in your hands, it is the most wonderful gift in the goddamn world. So if you make music, learn how to make a good tea or a coffee. I'm not very good at tea. As far as education goes, this is really interesting because I think the balance that's really hard to get is to be educated and yet know how to throw it away and know how to go fuck it, and also to go fuck it, but know when you have an education to fall back on. When this song just isn't working, I don't know what to do here. You can pull in your education. Remind me of the people who you got educated with, by the way. Because you're going to learn a whole bunch of tricks and stuff. Like you might go, I want this part to be a Bach choral piece or something. Or what can I do here? Like I was talking with someone the other night about how there's all these things you can do with your bass that aren't just sitting on the root of the bass. There's all these things you can do. I learned that from university. And then a lot of people, which learn it from Bach, but they applied it to Pink Floyd or fucking Miles Davis or Frank Zappa. That there are these, and that's all music education is. It's like, here's a whole bunch of tricks from a whole bunch of people who were fucking brilliant. But the trick you got to learn is that there comes a point where you got to go fuck it and throw everything away. And the further you disappear into intellectualism, and that's something that I fight with all the time, and it's not because of my training and education, it's because of the way I am, is that I've got to go, Carl, shut the fuck up. Stop thinking. And just fuck it. Just fuck it up. I will also say that a there's some great chats going on here. Thank you so much. I will also say that the thing about music education that was so important to me was meeting other people who were some from shitty country town like Tamworth or Dubbo or a whole bunch of other Australian small towns that you've never fucking heard of, who were the freak in their town. And you go to university and you are surrounded by freaks. And it's, oh my God, I'm not alone. And you can jump from a conversation about what Jimi Hendrix really brought to that major minor third thing to the Pink Floyd Sustain what blah 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 blah, and sit with a bunch of bass players and listen to them talk about tone and pickups, and you have no fucking idea, but it's the best conversation you've ever been part of, although you're just going, wow, I don't know any of this shit. And they're going to teach you all these tricks and everything else. And I think for me, and also a bunch of people who will always be my tribe that I took with them, it was called the Lismore Rock Syndicate. I take it with me always. So yeah, this is really interesting, and I you know, we're trying to build something similar here. That is, you know, it's the Rock Syndicate. Does anybody else want to jump in on this, or do we want to ever so slightly take a step to the left? Just turns 50 this year, by the way, I believe. We're always covering this one a bit, and it's like, how much do you give a fuck? And how much do the expectations change your output? We talked about this last week a bit. But I feel like there's other bits and pieces in this, like lyrics and all sorts of things. You know, to ask the question, with pressure, with fear, with politics, with the AI, with the algorithm, with all of these things, and please don't let your answer be, I don't give a fuck. Have empathy for people who are working on something and they don't know what to do. Because I think there is a point where you need to give a fuck. But the question is, because of what is being told to you, is it the DJ saying, oh, we won't play it unless it's between 120 and 140? Or if it's these people saying something else or something else, like, where is the line? And I guess this is just a free conversation, because things are happening, and I don't want to talk about politics. Things are happening. We'll talk about politics lots when this stream ends, but things are happening which is making it difficult to talk about lyrics and to use certain words, which in industrial music get used often. So my question is, and we don't have to go down this rabbit hole if you don't want. You don't have to. I'm just throwing it out there. Do you have this problem? Do you have words of wisdom or encouragement for people? Because when there's that voice in your head saying, oh, I'm concerned. Oh, I'm concerned. It's the worst voice to have in your head. Get that voice the fuck out of your head. How do you deal with it? Phoenix, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
How I deal with that is I try to just kind of put myself in a zone where I'm more receptible to the music itself. And then I get kind of in that flow a little bit. And after I get in the flow, it kind of everything else washes away and I can actually just create. And it can be like 5 o'clock in the morning and inspirational hit me and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm not sleeping tonight. And then I might make something that just wows me. And then I show it to someone and someone's like, you made that? I'm like, yeah. You're like, crap, that's pretty good. And I'm like, I guess I just kind of push myself even outside my comfort zone. Like I've been trying to do an industrial album for years and my brain kept pushing it off, pushing it off, pushing it off. Until I finally said, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this, because I kept on getting suggestions from fans and other people why don't you do industrial? You know, because you do a lot of dance, a lot of EDM, a lot of some popish stuff. And I'm like, well, I want to, but I kind of felt stuck. So I just forced myself to be uncomfortable. And somehow it's starting to make a really good album.
Thank you, and I encourage you to keep going. So thank you for doing this. Mark, I see your hand. You know, I'm going to just interrupt, and I'm just going to come straight out and say it, that the reason I bring this up is because I have a lyric, and I wrote the lyric 3 months ago. It just came to me, as they do, and I'm so proud of this song. And then in the last 2 weeks, because the hook involves the word bullet. Although I'm not talking about shooting people, I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about becoming a oh God, it's so difficult to fucking describe. About becoming, so there's a concept where you can either be shrapnel or a bullet. And the idea is, wow, I am so careful of what I say right now. And the idea about shrapnel is that it's sprayed around and it's going to hit innocent bystanders. And it's bad, whereas a bullet is going to hit the mark. I don't think people should get shot. Can we make that really clear? And we are not fucking talking about politics. Yeah, I don't like guns and I don't like people getting shot. Don't care who you are. I don't like people getting murdered. That's not what it's about. It is, and since, you know, the whole thing was lined up, this fucking song was bitching. I was talking to my mate the other night, and it was good to hear their idea of it. But the fact of the fucking matter is, in this climate, it ain't towing the line anymore, like KMFDM's Stray Bullet. They had nothing to do with shooting people, yet it was attributed to some terrible things. Whole bunch of politics, don't want to talk about it. I know KMFDM, they don't want that. They don't want it, nor do I. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, when your lyrics or your music or something is clearly towing the line 100 days ago, and now the line just got pushed behind you a few hundred yards, that's what I'm talking about. I'll be honest, I'm working on a song right now. I'm so fucking happy with it. But now I'm going, do I have to rewrite the lyrics and the concept to this fucking thing? Because it says the word bullet. And then I replace the word bullet with target. And it's like, so I don't know. And this is not counseling Carl. It's if you were in this situation and then say, oh, I'd never put myself in that situation, that's not fucking helping. If you are in this situation, how would you deal with it? So, Brett, you're welcome to answer that one, or what you were going to talk about before I just fucking wrote on in there. Whatever you want, baby. The floor is yours, Brett. Go.
Unfortunately, they're actually the same thing. So, you know, I've always said that I write music because I have to. You know, a lot, if not the majority of the topics that I'm writing about are things that I don't want to necessarily put in clear stated manner. I want to extrapolate it somehow so that the emotion's there. But and the intent is there, but the messaging is softened a little bit. The way I soften it, though, is by taking it into a fictional realm. You know, it's not that I don't care. It's that, for me, that's the way that machinery works. And maybe that's how. So when I take it into that fictional realm, it becomes this abstract art piece now. You know, it allows a way for, in my opinion, it allows a way for both listener and artist to kind of reach a middle point in the overall experience. And I will say that I've used, you know, I've got a few tracks that actually are straight up from the news. One One of the things I did is I scored the news like it was a horror movie. That's what I mean. And that's that machinery taking real life and providing a bit of fictional spin on it to make it entertaining to the ear, but and maybe still even deliver a killing message, kill shot, whatever. It doesn't, just because you use the terms doesn't mean that you're wishing harm. It means that you're using the English language to describe what you need to describe.
Thank you. I'm just going to really quickly reply. I thank you for that. You know, I really value your opinion. The problem we've got is that this shit gets misinterpreted. And that was the terrifying lesson I learned after releasing my first album, is that you are not in control of how people are going to misinterpret this. And I don't know. Mark, and again, Brett, thank you. And my thing's starting to crash a bit. Fuck computers, fuck everything. Mark, please, tell me your thoughts.
There it is. All right, so that I recognize that. Okay, so the first thing I was gonna say before the topic got shifted a little bit. So as far as what was the original topic? It wasn't. I don't remember. Anyway, is everyone still here? Everyone froze for a moment. Okay. So I don't remember what the first topic was I was gonna mention, but as far as a concern about are my lyrics going to be misinterpreted, I think that for the sake of being concise, it is on the person saying things to do their best to accurately communicate what they want to say. Now, of course, as you said, we cannot stop someone from misinterpreting you, but you can reduce the chance of that happening with effective communication. But obviously it's easy to say, oh, don't worry about it, just do your best and it'll work out. But like we know that's not going to happen. People misinterpret things. Some people just don't have the background to correctly understand what you're saying, and they're going to use their perspective on life to interpret what you say, and that can be bad or it can be good. Like, for instance, I'm on the fence about if you are people who see meaning in things that the artist did not at all intend. Like, I want to say that is a wrong interpretation of someone's opinion, but at the same time, art is in a sense how you interpret it. So like it's really shaky ground. But I'm more of the side of whatever the artist says is what something means. If the artist says this is a cloud, that is a cloud. If you say that no, that's a hippo, you're wrong. It's a cloud because the artist said that's a cloud. But okay, I'm rambling at this point, but simply put, I guess you do your best if you know that your lyric doesn't mean anything violent and you have done your due diligence in making that clear. That's all you can really do because otherwise the alternative is just to not say anything because you might get misinterpreted. Well, not say anything that's even slightly spicy in a sense. Okay, that's all I got.
I thank you for that. Thank you. Raziel, how do you think?
It's a little bit of a reckoning for me in some ways. I have one thing that I did back in the late 90s, early 2000s. The title is just gone. Do we have any restrictions on language that we're doing here? Are we couching stuff? Not politics, but just like words that we're choosing?
No.
Carl? Okay,
No,
just
no,
making sure, because sometimes, the whatever. Algorithm. The weird part about this tune and thinking back of it in today's cultural churn context and the polarizing kind of vibes that we probably feel when presenting things for real reasons. I don't know if I would have done it, but youth and the novelty of what I thought was a really clear message, even though the character in the song kind of says the opposite what I believe. I mean, I'm feeling like nobody's going to go back and hold me accountable for something I said in this song, because ultimately I put my own clarity as the primary reason for writing it. It was a diary entry. I saw something happen. I felt ways about it. I had ideological views on how that happened, and I tried my best to make a poetic and moving message piece for people to also just dance to and ignore if they want to, which is, it's an interesting balancing act, but it didn't at that time enter into my mind not to use the word, automatic weapon or target sites, things like that. Like, these are sort of charged words that maybe it was before Call of Duty came out and that kind of culture. I don't know. We're in a different place now. I can't really figure out how I'd feel writing a pacifist manifesto with a bunch of violent imagery in it. But it's really an interesting thought exercise. I'd like to think that if your main goal is getting your absolute philosophical angle clear and square in your mind and in your thoughts and feelings and in your words, you're coming out on the other side with something you can stand behind and maybe argue for if it came to that. And I don't know how important that is to everybody, but to me, that's sort of the reality of making up these stories. It's what we're faced with, and man, if you don't care, just say stuff. If you do care, just say stuff with clarity and certainty, I guess. And I don't know. That sounds like I'm trying to offer advice, but I'm telling this to myself, like what I would do today in the studio if I wanted to write something about an event that I saw today that was similar to that. It was nighttime shooting a van up event that I saw going to the nightclubs, going to Man Ray in Cambridge, Mass. And I took it home and I had some thoughts and feelings about being like, what the fuck, So I can see that having some meaning to a lot of people's experience today, where there's so much more of that. I don't know. It's I'm feeling like the bottom line for me is, if I can say it with my own certainty and my own poetry and my own message and know that I said it mostly right, then even if there's a discussion after the fact, I can still stand behind it, and it doesn't necessarily curtail what I say because I still believe it, hopefully.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Austin, what do you think?
I will say there are definitely words that I've eliminated from my vocabulary just to avoid, discrepancies and stuff. But like Rezi was saying, it's poetry. Your music is poetry, and if you've got to get a point across that's not hateful or presenting the style of a character or anything, then it's really up to the context and being able to stand behind yourself and saying, hey, look, this is just a character brought forth in the music, and being accountable for what you said and knowing that it wasn't anything discriminating, racist, hateful, hurtful, destructive, is up to you, and being able to answer for that and say, hey, this was a poetic thing is kind of back to what Rezi says right there. And that's all I have to say about that is, there are definitely words that I've eliminated from my vocabulary just to avoid discrepancy, because there are other ways to say things, but then you'd have to rewrite your whole song. But, there's multiple routes and there's multiple ways to skin that cat.
Thank you. Phoenix, talk to me.
So what I've learned is there's two things in the world you control. You can control how you react to something, and you can control basically just yourself. So you can try to put out that message and say, this is a detailed vision from my song. This is what my song was about. but people will misinterpret, and there are trolls out there that are like, well, let's see what kind of negative reaction we can get from from intentionally misinterpreting this. And that's just what we're going to have to deal with in the music industry, because there are some people that just are like, okay, let's try to create some chaos. And it's like, if you're able to write out, this is my vision, this is my interpretation. If you have a completely different interpretation, that's on you. And that is perfectly fine that you have that interpretation. But this is how I'm stating for the background, some like lore about my song, because I've tried to reason with some people in the past. I've tried to kind of see their viewpoint about certain stuff, and some people are just difficult. So that's my thing.
Thank you, Phoenix. Thank you very much. Ivan, talk to me.
I mean, this whole it feels like we're getting to the final results of, oh geez, 40 years of trying to say something and having, groups of people that are trying to be the people that decide what gets said. Like back in the early 80s, Prince released an album that caused the PMRC to come into existence. And of all people, it was Prince who released an album that did that. I don't think what a dangerous guy when I think of him. I think, near as I can tell, he's a pretty nice guy. He just had some stuff to say and wasn't afraid to say it. And there comes a point where we need to be okay with taking the kinds of risks that will involve buying our world back from, not just the PMRC, but like whole other groups have decided they needed to have their say on, what we can and cannot say. And, like I'm getting very tired of having to like turn fairly complicated and horrible concepts into weird, cute acronyms just so that an algorithm can be happy with us. I don't want to live in that world. Let's just ask, what would Jello Biafra have to say about this? I mean, like there's an individual who never worried about what he was going to say next, and was able to navigate that whole thing. Uh, like in his problems, problems that were caused for him had more to do with things than just the images inside an album sleeve. Um, like uh, the entire like Frankenchrist album was pretty much just tailor built to piss off Tipper Gore. Um, at that, but again, like she's not the only one out there that's causing these problems for people that are making music. And the sad part is you look at like current crop of popular music out there right now, and you can see the 40 years of like damage that's been caused to it because like it's all plasticky and blah and boring, and it doesn't, you know, it has no edges. It's amorphous mass of, you know, not really having any distinct idea, because a distinct idea could get you in trouble. Um, so I mean, at the same time, there are certain things you just don't do like at all, in the world, even outside of music. I mean, like calls to action are potentially a bad idea. Keep them in mind. At the same time, if somebody's, got a take on a situation that you don't fully agree with, like they, that's why you have a voice as well. You can always talk. It works. Surprisingly effective.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you very much. Brett, what are your thoughts?
So the fear is always that, something you say is going to be taken out of context. It's going to be taken out of your intended meaning, whether you meant that as words to paint an image in someone's head, or whether you actually meant those words themselves to be hurtful somehow. The thing about it is when I was a kid, the music industry, if you will, controlled every single band I'd ever heard. And I would turn on the radio, and every single song was a love song. It's what made death metal awesome. You know, man, we're three-dimensional beings. We are not going to fit nicely in anyone else's box. That's the only thing you can do honestly is try to express your own state of being using the languages we speak. So while I'm not unsympathetic, I am also somewhat calloused to this argument. And I'm callous to the argument that I shouldn't use certain words because today it's unfashionable. These concepts are still concepts, and it's about the intent you put behind them, whether or not you're actually trying to cause harm. It's not about using these as descriptions. If I turn this into a TV show about a subject, it doesn't mean any more that I'm showing this to you as a body of work. It's not an attack. It's an expression of ourselves as artists. That's so. In my own life, even, I just kind of. I mean, there's a point where I care, and then there's a point where you hit that calloused part of me. And I simply can't, because there's nothing I can do to convince you outside of your own headspace. That's kind of how I think about it.
And thank you. We're just going to keep rolling. Raziel, what are your thoughts?
Thank you, everybody who's had things to say so far, which I think is all of us. What it has done for me listening to you all is it really clarified, you know what, I would consider it a fucking gift if somebody misinterpreted what I had to say and made a big deal out of it, because then I have the stage to clarify my position and defend the fuck out of it, because I said a thing that is either artistically sound or philosophically sound according to the ideals that I set out forth with, and that feels good. I don't think I'm gonna write more politically charged or polarizing stuff now than ever. I don't do it a lot, so it's not really an issue for me. But yeah, thanks.
I'm gonna jump in here if that's okay. And by the way, yeah, I think I muted someone's mic by accident myself. Wow, censorship. Like, the Australian photographer Bill Henson, you look up his work. It's absolutely beautiful work, where he would photograph children, sometimes naked. And it was harrowing, haunting, where you saw pain in these kids' eyes. and you saw the difficulty that they were having in their going through tweens to become an adult. It is absolutely beautiful, thought-provoking work, photography. And he would also slash it up and then gaff it back together. It was beautiful. I actually saw one of his pieces, and it was a photo, but the photo was like 20 feet high, 40 feet across. Like it was a huge format photograph. He was investigated in 2008 for being a pedophile. And the cops actually went into his home, raided his home in Sydney and his studio, looking for material. And what's interesting about that is that was not based on investigation. We investigated something, then we went in. It was based on public pressure and scrutiny. Oh, that guy's a pedophile. That guy's a pedophile. We better investigate then. We better kick our way into his fucking studio and da-da-da. He was found not guilty. But it raised this fascinating argument with or thought with art versus art versus, And in doing this, while I was just researching this, I just saw that the Irish band Kneecap is now getting banned internationally on their tour because of alleged ties to terrorist organizations. But from what my research suggests, that's not the case. So anyway, back to Bill Henson. And Bill Henson took photos for the Paris Opera. He took, the guy's fucking brilliant. Meanwhile, I think it was Michelangelo in the 1500s was painting children cherubims, where you could clearly see the cremaster of that cherubim, which is the area between the anus and the testicles. So you could see everything on this child. And it is in the eye of the beholder, and you're going to spend your career, or whatever it is you want to refer to this as navigating and really asking your way around this and trying to figure it out. I don't have a solution for it. And I do not think that this is a fleeting, it's only happening right, this won't be a problem in a few years. Maybe it won't be a problem in a few years, but it will come back. I think there is a line that you need to decide as an artist, where your line is. And I think it's important to try and stick to that line. You can't, people love misinterpreting things. Most art gets misinterpreted. Most art, they just listen to it and they go, blue poles. Oh, he just spat blue painting all over fucking, where's the art in this? But they didn't look at his other work, where the guy was clearly extremely, exquisitely capable of painting Renaissance, modern, etc. I didn't care about that shit. Very rarely do people actually I just said all this shit on my lyrics and I'm going to release a statement. No one's going to give a fuck because very few people are going to read that. Oh my God, I know that. I don't know the answer to this. It's a great conversation to have, knowing that we could have this conversation every day with different people and it's going to be a different thing. It's very, very, very interesting to be aware of fear and conjecture. That fear is really not just the mind killer, but it's the everything killer. That when fear and censorship starts creeping into your art, there is room for genuine Strategic. I don't think I'll say that. That's fine. That's your call. But when it's fear and paranoia and conjecture that's coming in from other things that you are plugged into, it's when the mob go, oh, I don't know, I'd be concerned. Which has been the story of my fucking career. I don't even want to say career. I feel like a wanker when I say career. Of my entire artistic journey. And screaming at people, for fuck's sake, you don't understand what this is about. So there was totally not answering the question. I, as an artist, if I dare have the audacity to refer to myself as that, I try very hard to say what is on my mind, in my heart, and say something that is building, positive, and edifying to my tribe. And the more I have gone down, the more I do this, the more I understand that I need to be presenting lyrics as I have to take a lot of care in the lyrics. Like I have to take so much care in the lyrics because I am going to be held accountable for that. Anyway, so that's my thoughts, is that you need to figure out where that line in the sand is. The sand's going to shift all the time, and sometimes it's going to drag the line along with it. So that was absolutely no help at all. Phoenix, do you want to help?
That was plenty of help for me. Basically, what I've also learned is with the stating the opinion and everything, you have to be very clear and direct because you are going to be misinterpreted. That's just human beings. They will do that. You can try to frame it as like your perspective, like this is what is my view of this song. Because if someone's like, well, I see your song as this, you've already stated this is what you view as your song. So if they see it in a different light, that's their own mirror itself, to the lyrics or whatnot. You can also state the context up front, and people ignore the shit out of it, like you said. They just sometimes do. And that's their problem, I'm thinking. It's their problem for ignoring what is printed or what is in, the booklet of your album. You can also, as I said before, anticipate the misinterpretation because it's just going to be that way with some people. That's why it's great to be very clear and precise. And you have to avoid absolutes like always, never, or everyone. And if you stick to I statements, that's a little bit easier. You can also just put up disclaimers and say, hey, look, my songs might offend some people. If you're one of these people that it's going to offend, don't listen to my stuff. And if they listen to it anyways, and they're like, well, this upset me. Well, you gave them a warning. And they chose to be brazen and ignore your warning. So it's actually a them problem. That's what I got.
Thank you very much. Mark, what are your thoughts?
So this was somewhat in response to what Brett was saying about, I get to a certain point and then, I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. So this is kind of an open-ended question. And also, Zeke, Carl, you kind of touched on this. Is there a line? Are there certain words that just should not be used by anyone, no matter what? Like we should just leave those terms essentially in the past, in the dust. Does that exist? Personally, I think so. I think there are some terms that just no one should use in any context because the past of those words are so charged with negativity that they should not be used. Case in point, the N-word. I don't think anyone should use the N-word. Actually, you know what? That's not true. I don't think that. I think there are very specific situations for it, but generally speaking, I don't think anyone should ever use that word. And now I did encounter someone online who I haven't met in person who I just politely asked them not to use that word, and they threw a fit about it. And I was just like, I didn't say not to use it. I said just don't use it around me. And like it was just they just made a big deal about it. And then there was someone else in the same chat who was just like, oh, that's just how these group of people, like I think he said Europeans or something. He's like, that's just how Europeans are. We just don't care. And I'm just like, okay, but like I'm not policing your speech per se. I'm just saying, please, out of respect for me, don't say it. So that is to say, obviously there are going to be people who have vastly different opinions, but I, yeah. So like I said, my question is, do you guys think that there are words that just no one should touch?
Thank you, Mark. This is bold. I really appreciate it. Brett, go.
Okay. I'm going to say no, I don't think so. But I'm going to qualify this. There are intents with language, with physical action, with all forms of action that should not be done to other people. They should not, words, if you use words as a weapon, what's the difference between using a weapon? With that said, the reason I don't think words should simply be banished to Neverland is because then you take with it the history that got you there. I'm not looking to celebrate anything necessarily, but I would be strongly opposed to also letting anyone off the hook by banishing it to nothingness. So I think it comes back to intent again. If you're having a conversation with somebody who intends to hurt your feelings, then they're gonna hurt your feelings. If you have an intent to have an intelligent conversation about how stuff like this works, and that's not the goal, then why can't we have a real discussion about the words, the languages, the intent, the whole thing that got us here? And I think that's also where it comes back to us as artists and how we choose how to deliver our own message. It's if we censor ourselves, then all we do is feed the fear. If nobody stands up and says, you know what, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, then we've learned nothing. So I think it's about intent, it's about respect, and that's about it.
Thank you, Brett. Razi, hit me.
Mark and Brett, someplace between what you both said, I have a feeling, and it's banished. No, that implies something about government control or top-down song composer. But deprecated, yeah, certainly. Language changes, and we have to be sensitive to that. And you will be judged in the context your meaning was received every time, not the context in which you delivered it. And you may think you've got a position, you may be willing to defend it, but you live in a society here, and that's the thing. And if you kind of boil it down to something as glib as you gotta be a good hang. I have a little anecdote. And I may have told this before, but I was recording a rap artist, and his lyrics are full of words that I'm not going to use. It's like, there's a ton of it. Like, but I was cueing him on a particular punch, and I'm like, after this particular word, and I said it, and he was like, yeah, could you not use that word? It doesn't sound good when you say it. And I was like, okay, that's a little bit, yeah, that was weird. Absolutely not. And like there was no big deal after that. I felt terrible for the rest of the session, but he didn't, become hating me or have a problem with me. And it was definitely a functional, making the session go to say, okay, punch in after a word. So, it changed my tolerance, I suppose, for how I cling to language. And example after example in the public discourse of how people get offended by things and feel bad about things is like, you just fucking shut up and roll with it if you want to be a good person, okay to hang out with, not detestable, not a cantankerous old fuck. I mean, language changes and meanings change, and it's going to be received the way that the culture has adopted and adapted a lot of words and meanings and sentiments. So I've tried to sort of go with that. Like, how many people in the room are going to think I'm an asshole if I say it? One, probably just skip it, even if it's just one. So there's probably more to it to ruminate on and think of, but sometimes it does boil down to interpersonal rather than the political.
Thank you. Phoenix, hit me.
So I've learned that recently there is intent versus impact. So if you're with certain people that are having, say, a philosophical discussion about certain things, and you're all in the same mind frame, then it might be okay for that group of people to sit down and talk and figure out the history and whatnot behind it. Also, I've noticed things with censorship and all other stuff, and context is everything for this. When you try to say, hey, I don't want to say this, okay, cool, that's you. I don't want to say certain things. That's fine, you know. But as Rosie said before, language does evolve and things do change. And the best thing is, I think, try to be responsible with the people who you're around, because you could say things to them that could be fine in that social group, you know, of people, whoever it is, you know. But if you're not, you know, if you're not responsible with how you're doing things in public, I think it's just gonna be one quick downhill thing from there, you know.
Thank you very much. This is a great conversation, and I'm really grateful for everybody's gentleness and respect in this. Austin.
Oh, well, I would say in Carl's context, and then going back to the defending of censorship there, I'll stand on saying if we start eliminating words for the people, they won't know how to use them. And if we need to use a word that, like bullet, for instance, imagine one day if kids didn't know the words of bullets and bullets were flying because we were in the middle of a war. How would they know what's going on? So this is just an example. If we start eliminating words, we won't have words for certain things. But I do agree, there are some words that should just be eliminated from our vocabulary entirely because there are other ways to say things.
Thank you very much. Brett, would it be okay if I jumped in? Thank you. It's interesting that precursor to this, Randall, is that, Mark, I don't use that word at all. Ever, 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 ever. As an Australian, the word didn't really mean a lot. There were far more offensive words. But coming to the United States, I have learnt the deep racial pain that those words have caused. And every time you say those words, it is a reminder of power, of oppressive power. I work at the LGBT Center, and they do a lot of stuff of racial healing. And it's very interesting that a lot of the people that attend that are elderly. So there's still healing. There's healing that is still going on, as indeed it is with the Australian Aboriginal people, which is one of the reasons I always do a land acknowledgement at the beginning of these things, because there is a deep generational pain trauma that is being passed down from parents to children. Don't bother, you won't achieve anything, we won't get anything done because da 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 da, hence alcoholism, hence drugs, and all that sort of stuff. And I used to work for the New South Wales Department of Health in multicultural health, and that included Aboriginal health to a degree. I think that since coming to the United States, I have learned I've learned about that word and what it means here, and I have decided I don't want to. If it's in a conversation, I don't want to have that conversation. If it's in a song, I don't want to listen to the song. Even if the song is by Black people, I don't want to hear that song. That's secret business between you. I don't want to be a part of it. Australian Aboriginals have this wonderful concept called secret business. And there's secret man's business and secret woman's business. Secret woman's business is stuff that only women talk about, not around the men. I don't know, maybe they're bitching. Fine, go do secret woman's business. Secret man business is the same thing, but for men. And then there's secret Aboriginal business, which white people don't listen to. By the way, I hate being called white, and I hate people being called black. I don't get it. I don't, because in my, thank you, Frank, in Australian culture, we don't have, you don't call people black and white. You do that here. I do a podcast that is about queer health for people over 40. And the guy that takes it, if you walk on my keyboard, it will be the end of things. Here is my favorite thing. The guy that takes it is a brilliant human being named Jerry, who I love, and he's black. And whenever there's another black person on the show that Jerry's interviewing, quite often the N-word gets dropped between each other. And that's culturally a difficult thing for me to understand. And I've voiced my concerns with Jerry. I don't like that word. I'm not, me personally, Carl, I'm not comfortable with it. I know for a fact if that's on SoundCloud, SoundCloud's not going to be impressed. Same with Spotify, even if they are two black people speaking. So for me personally, I don't like the word because I have come to understand it's not just a word. It is a little reminder. It is a horrible, narcissistic reminder of verbalized abuse. So I don't touch it. I want to hear it. There's another word, which is also a 6-letter word, that starts with F. Here's Alex. And the very interesting thing about that word is that I was called that word my whole life. People don't like using that word, and I understand why, for similar reasons, that it is a word used to put down, destroy, hurt people. But I hear that word, I don't hear that word a lot. But I try not to use that word. There are Australian words that are okay to use in Australia, but they're not okay to use here. And I am often, I don't know, man. This is an interesting conversation that there are words that, for me, it means stupid and backwards, but for somebody else, it's an offense that is taken at their sibling who has severe autism. It's curious. I try not to, I never used that word in a lyric. Have I? No, I don't think I have. Even the word cancer, I don't like saying that in lyrics. I don't like the N word that ends in AZI. I don't like saying that in lyrics, and I don't like saying that guy's name, either of those guys' names. It's interesting. It's very interesting that, who do you choose to respect, who do you choose not to respect, and who do you think, blah, blah, blah. But I do really agree that whatever you say, you will be held accountable for, because by God, I have. That's one thing I'll tell you. You can be as edgy as you want or not as edgy as you want. And no matter what, people are going to say, hey man, in this time of political fucking hell, you're not talking about everything. What the fuck's your problem? And then they're going to say, well, dude, I think you're being way too political. I don't want to listen to your music anymore. Yeah, either way you lose. Thanks, Carl. That was really, really positive. Brett, what are your thoughts?
So pretty much, everything you said there is something that I was going to touch on. But I'll just kind of say that, we all have conversational modes, and for you described it as, secret man shit, secret woman shit, or secret, Aboriginal shit, things like that. But the I mean, hell, even me and a friend when we were young made our own damn language up, so that nobody could understand us. These are also not terms I use regularly. I'm it's more what I'm saying is like what I don't like about all of it is the use of things like that to simply hurt, demean, destroy without understanding what you're wielding. If you're not going to take the time to understand what you're doing and why, then you're really just dumb. I mean, so it's no, these aren't terms that I would throw around in any kind of language. I don't have any peers who use these. And quite honestly, where I'd rather offend you is by grabbing religious characters that you don't know about, or maybe you do, and then showing them to you as things that represent things that are happening today. Yeah, I know that trespasses all over your belief. Well, there's going to be a break somewhere, and there's a real complexity in trying to express any thought. So I'm not going to take away someone else's use of any term, especially if they find some way that works well for them, their community, or them, and whatever. Where we meet in the streets, we need a different mode of conversation. That's where now you and your tribe, or you whatever, and how you speak, we need a common language. Or it's just there's no point. Does that anyway? That's I'm trying to kind of express that as a thought. Maybe that makes sense.
Thank you. And open-mindedness and healing, I think. I appreciate your thoughts on open-mindedness. Yes. I had a crazy thought while you were talking. Phoenix, hit me, and then I'm going to shoot my mouth off.
So basically, I've had similar situations to you, Carl, where people have used lots of derogatory things towards me. And I've learned, eventually to just try to separate myself from those groups of people that are quite negative. It was all growing up through grade school, high school, and eventually I just learned to kind of avoid certain people, like bullies and whatnot, for those kind of phrases that I'm not even going to say, towards me. But, I love that we have a lot of understanding here, a lot of compassion, and we are having basically the philosophical talk of all these different things to get a little bit of from each person so that we can not only broaden our own viewpoint, but other people who are witnessing and looking at us right now, they can tap a little bit into what our good things are, what our hurt is, all this other stuff. So I'm finding this just wonderful to come to when I can. You guys are all awesome.
Thank you. So I had a thought. Thank you, everybody, for these perspectives. These are important. No one's right or wrong. These are really interesting things to listen to from other artists that may help you figure something else out. I was thinking during this conversation, and again, I thank you, that one of the most powerful things I could do is not show the monster. So the monster in this concept is in this situation is a word, and I'm concerned about that word. what would happen if I beeped that word out? And nobody actually knew what the word was going to be. But the core, the hit, the moment when that song hits, the whole point of that is expleet beeped out. And it's obvious. Something like that might be really interesting, because then every single person is going to go, what's that lyric? They're going to go, that's the worst possible word I could possibly use there. And every person's probably going to have a different word. I don't know. That was my thought. And I've just written that down. I'm thinking maybe I should do that. That would be a very nice fuck off. Rezi, talk to me.
When I talk about subtraction from time to time, this is exactly an example of artistic subtraction. And it is probably one of the most focused applications of it, you know, that you can do. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but there's the unnecessary censorship, unnecessary censoring kind of thing, where either they'll put black bars over parts of people's bodies that it's not necessary to censor, or it'll put them over the sensitive bits and make it seem as though maybe you could see something. I don't know. So it puts it in your mind. It's gone from the picture, but the viewer is now responsible for bringing that sinful thought. And the same thing for taking out certain words, like just, you know, taking somebody's innocuous and benign speech and censoring out words that could be reinterpreted as having been suggestive. And it absolutely wasn't in the intent. It may be in the editorial intent, and it may be in the listener's perception, but it was not in the original message. And there's a lot to be explored there that's kind of distills the difference in where these meanings are actually, where the meanings exist. That's fascinating.
Thank you very much, Adapt, Manipulate. Welcome, Brett. And thank you, Rezi. I really appreciated that. My brain is working. Brett, what are your thoughts?
I got a really short one. It would also be kind of cool if you maybe took that word and added so much distortion that it could not be heard.
I like. Okay, so on other news, we might change topics just a bit, but it isn't. I realized this week that my record label that I've had for 20 years now, called Black Pill, Red Pill, so originally it got deleted from Facebook, and this is a perfect example of what I am talking about. So that's taken from the Matrix, and the black pill was taken from something else because red and black look cool together. So red pill is a misogynist, for want of a better term, male group who are, I don't really know how misogynist it is. I can't make that judgment. People think that they are misogynist. There are areas of the red pill that are fucking misogynist. There's no questions. There's other areas of the red pill movement that are asking about what it is to be a man in modern day society. So it's charged. It became charged, and around about 2018, 16 or something, it became quite charged. So Facebook took it off. They took off the black pill, red pill group, and there were like 500-600 members. It's gone. Couldn't get it back. Had to relaunch it as BPRP. Meanwhile, on the back of all the albums, because fuck y'alls, I kept putting black pill, red pill. But now black pill's become a thing. Or it's always been a thing. It's a thing. And it's originally it was seen as a group where black men could voice their thoughts about the red pill movement, but now it's something else. And if you Google it, and then you Google shooter, you'll see what's going on. Brett, the look on your face right now is you can't roll your eyeballs any more than that. So anyway, moral of the story is Angelspit and everything is now moving over to May Graves is setting up a record label, and we're going over there. It just sucks that it has to be called BPRP. Yeah. Well, actually, Alex, you're kind of similar. I bet it goes way fucking worse than that. Yay, May May indeed. May May's new album, by the way, kickstarts this week, we hope. And I'm very fucking proud of this album. Rezi, what are your thoughts?
I just wanted to commiserate with sometimes culture tramples all over your trademark. There was
Doesn't
a
it?
diet candy in the 80s called AYDS, late 80s. They disappeared. That was no longer a viable brand
Yeah. Well,
for
and
anything at that particular moment in culture. And it was absolutely by no design flaw of their own. I mean, it was just a name of a thing. It was aiding you. It was helpful. So anyway.
Similar to that Corona beer.
Yeah, thanks. Exactly.
and that ties into what we were talking about, where sometimes you don't get a choice. That either it's going to get banned, it's going to get flagged, it's going to get whatever, or something terrible is going to happen in its name. And I have had terrible things happen from my lyrics that have made me careful because of people dying, literally. So I'm careful. We could change topics if you want. So on Wednesday, what is it? Wednesday night, Saturday, Thursday night, my friend Matt was kind enough to take me to see Nine Inch Nails. And it was really interesting. It was interesting because Matt's the lighting guy at the LGBT Center. He's like the head honcho. He's a fucking good lighting designer. He's won awards for his lighting. Outstanding lighting. And we were both sitting there, and I said, the tickets are at tax deduction because we are so going to talk about work. This is fucking research. And it was funny that these two grumpy old bastards, Matt and myself, are sitting there with their arms crossed, just screaming at the stage, "Fuck you!" Every time they did something. It is a phenomenal show. It was phenomenal. And they kept doing stuff that was, okay, how the fuck are you doing that? Like, was it a scrim that had LEDs in it and they were projecting onto the scrim as well as having LEDs on it? Or was it this, and this? And it was, and Boys Noise, dude, Jesus, those motherfuckers stole the show. Because Boys Noise were kind of the support act, but it was so smart because Matt's there going, he was like, sure, we're enjoying it. It was great. Top 5 shows I've ever seen. Fucking great. And we were going, okay, so there's different projections in different places because there's a scrim and there is an artist 5 feet behind the scrim. And if there's a projection on behind you, you're causing a shadow, but there's no shadow. And we were trying to figure out how the fuck were they doing that. And we figured out that the whole thing was image mapped in such a way that Trent didn't move. So there was no light being shot across him, and the cross areas of 2 projectors covered the scrim, got the shadow off the scrim. And all of these little fucking things. There was a stage in the middle of the auditorium. There's only about 10,000 people there. And then there was the main stage, the big rock and roll stage. Holy shit, their drummer was good. The drummer was so good. And so that's the rock and roll stage, and the little stage in the middle, like in thrust or in the round, was where Boys Noise was, and Trent started with some nice piano and blah, 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 blah. And they'd finish that set, they would go underground, run to the stage, which was 200 feet away. Poor old Trent had to run. No Ferrari to take you this time, mate. Maybe they did have fucking, maybe they had little golf carts in there, like Spy Who Shagged Me. So the first one. But it was timed, so you had a set amount of time to get off stage, go down, drive, get back on stage, gear up, go. And we were just going, whoever is calling this show, like actually stand by on lights go, the stage manager calling the show. Like, I've been backstage for LA Opera, and they are big you've got the head caller, the head stage manager, who are calling to all the different departments. Hydraulics are coming in, and this is coming in, and the stage is spinning around and fucking crazy. And not only calling people to go on stage, but I was just going, LA Opera couldn't do something like this. Oh, they probably could, but this is fucking touring. So it was a great show, and the lights were really pretty. The lights were brilliant, so fucking smart. And it was great to go with Matt because we could just sit there and go, how the fuck are they doing this? Oh no, wait, this is how they're doing that. And Matt also, it was really great because they had a whole bunch of like small, really super strong swivel lights, and Matt knew exactly what they were, exactly like he knew everything. And I was listening to the audio going, okay, this is what's going on here. Mind-blowing. Anyway, there you go. We've only got 15 minutes left. There was something else funny I wanted to talk about, unless somebody else wanted to bring up something. Thing I wanted to put up is the importance of, did I talk about this last week? Of a bullshit marketing pitch. For example, I found money in the back of the cab and I spent it on a sampler, and that started my career. That might be true, or it might be bullshit. One of my favorite is she was discovered while singing at the hairdressers, which was Bow Wow Wow. I think it's really important to come up with a marketing pitch that is complete bullshit. But it's got to be, we met each other through regressive hypnosis because it turned out we had both been abducted by aliens and we were both being experimented on at the same time. Something like that. So maybe my parting thoughts, because I don't know if anybody wants to say anything else. Think about in the future to open any ideas for suggesting a mixing style. I'm going to write this down. Thank you, Phoenix. Think about what your bullshit could be. And it might be too late because a lot of us have already kind of like, but think about it. Rezi, talk to me.
It's never too late for bullshit. That's a really fun idea. It's liberating. I like that. I never even considered it. I'm always so sort of like adhering to scrupulously to the truth that we forgot that we're doing a lot of fiction here. So good on you. I like
Star Wars didn't happen.
Oh my God.
It didn't happen. I know, but music is, we're in the realm of storytelling, etc. Alex, Ivan, I see your hand. Give me a sec. Did I just cut you off, Rizzy? Sorry. Okay, cool. Alex, maybe what you need to be saying is that you design music for cockroaches so that they put their heads up and listen, and that the frequencies you're using are calling and soothing cockroaches. Something, I don't know. Ivan, what do you think?
I've got one. It was discovered at the clinic when the phlebotomist tried to turn his inside arm into hamburger. These screams were crazy and loud enough to make us go, oh, we want him as a vocalist.
That's good. You've got to make it more, you got to condense it a bit. Like make it more short and punchy. It's got to be like, 50 words. Discovered while one of the member was cutting into their arm so they could eat it or something. I don't know. Yeah. Anybody else?
While screaming their way through a blood draw.
Yeah, but blood draw kind of sounds like clinical.
Because it is.
It's got to be abstract.
Oh.
Or we were going to cannibalize the person and we started cutting on their arm to eat their arm, turn their arm into steak, to have human wings. But their screams were so fantastic, we decided to make them the lead singer in our band. Put that into GPT and say, make it 50 words or less. There you go. We could end here unless anybody else wants to jump in on a constructive, positive note. I mean, like not cutting into somebody eating their arm and going, actually, you should sing in our band. is very positive. Okay, we're gonna wrap this up, and I thank you all for being a part of this. We're gonna hang around later after this. Every Saturday we are here. This is the Art of Rock. Ba 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 ba. It's there, or it's on YouTube's fucking Angelspit's YouTube. Go like the fucking Twitch, like and subscribe and all that shit. God, I fucking hate saying it. Like and subscribe has become such a diss. Use it in your lyrics. It's great. There's Angelspit's Patreon. Jump on it. You can have it for free or not, whatever you want. That's the new album. It went out free to Patreon members. Fucking get some of that shit. There's a really good playlist, which is the Industrial Incisions playlist. Bam! Music you have to know about. For the love of fuck, please. Get on that shit. This Wednesday night, Vulture Culture is doing the K2000. We hope. And there's a whole bunch of conversation regarding that fucking thing that's craziness, because it's... Where do you start with that synthesizer? It's so huge. Thanks for your input during the week, Brett, regarding the K2000. Before we do the whole raid thing, remember, kids, indivisible. There it is. Peaceful, legal, and constitutional. Fix your fucking country, please. Legal, constitutional, and peaceful. Yay for these things. Here's everybody who was a part of today's madness, and I thank you all for being part of today's madness. Boom! Music for your face. Get some in your face. Razi, thank you so much for being part of this.
And thank you so much for making there a thing to be part of. And thank you, everybody, for contributing and for the chat and being on the panel and everything. Highlight of my week.
Awesomeness, thank you. And what we shall do now is raid to the magical place of MTV TV, where there's magic, and you're going to learn about your new band, favorite new band. Oh yeah, favorite new band. Go Diana, go. And if you're not on Twitch, that will automatically be flinging on over. And you're on YouTube, use that link, or on your Facebook. Does everyone give a shit about Facebook? No, they do not. I stream to Facebook. Why? Why do I bother streaming to Facebook? I just don't know. There it is. Let me know when we've rated, and we're going to hang back here and get up to some no good. Nearly went to a protest yesterday. Have we rated yet?
We just did.
All right! Everybody scream. Put on your mics and scream. Ah! Oh no, wait. Hold on. I don't want to push that button. I got it wrong. And we're going to try it again. And